Well, welcome everyone. Happy New Year, belated Merry Christmas. And without further ado, we are going to share my big announcement today, aren't we, Stuart?
We are.
And I have to say I'm a little bit nervous about this, but I really want to share it with you for a number of different reasons, and not so much because I am the center of the universe and everything revolves around me and what's going on in my life and changes in my life. That is not the point. The point is that so many of us are at points in our lives where we are transitioning from one stage to another, either because we're about to have children, or we are aging, or we are downsizing, or our kids have gone away to college, or we're expecting a new baby. There are so many times that are pivotal moments for all of us that I think speak to my big change that is about to happen. And so I hope that in some small way, Stuart and I can share what we're going through right now so that it is germane to you and your life, so that it might be instructive as you and I might be going through some of the same things together. And so again, it's not all about me, it's about all of us and how we can help improve our quality of lives, make our lives more beautiful, share what is important to us at different times in our lives, and really just have a sense of community where we are all sharing things that we have in common. So Stuart, what do you think?
Let's do it.
Without further ado, we're going to go to another location and we are going to share our big news. So you want to come along with me? Drum roll, please, Stuart, as if it's not already obvious. Just by looking at this room, we are moving. We have found a charming little house that we absolutely love. If this is the English manor, we are moving to an English cottage that we hopefully will learn to love every bit as much as this one. And it is pretty freaky, isn't it, Stuart?
It was the weirdest thing to walk in here.
To walk in, you can hear the echo off of the walls. All of the furniture is out of here. We're not going to show you the other rooms because they are really a mess. Stuart commented that this may be the only time when he's been to my house that it was messier than his was.
I have the cleaner house.
You have the cleaner house. So we are slowly moving out over the course of the next couple of weeks. This was the first room to be almost fully emptied out. And you can see, of course, that probably our biggest challenge, in addition to maybe all of the pots that I'm going to have to move outside, Stuart, the biggest challenge has been all of our books, because it is really hard to part with old friends. But we are doing as best we can in going through them, deciding what goes where, who wants to keep what. My kids, they're going through some of their childhood books to see which ones they want to keep. I am looking through them as well to see which ones are keepers for the grandchildren. And then as a kind of a little gift to the new owner, I have stacks here of all of the magazines that this house has been featured in over the years. The garden house, the garden, the inside, the outside. So it's kind of bittersweet, isn't it, Stuart?
It's definitely bittersweet.
Yeah, and especially this time of year, as I walk through these rooms now, knowing that in some cases this is going to be the last few times that I walk through these rooms. It's really difficult, and I hear strains of Auld Lang Syne everywhere I go. But if we're not constantly moving on, then we're staying behind. And we are ready to move on into 2023. And now here's a special message from my older son, Johnny Vater.
That winter break, when I had returned home and my mom asked what growing up in this house meant for me, my reactions were as outlined above. They were simply too much for me to say without feeling awkward. The maple kitchen windowsill, then, was probably decorated with a miniature Santa Claus and floppy Christmas hat. Just like the entryway, living room, dining room, and many of the house's other open surfaces, the windowsill changed with the seasons. Small pumpkins, gourds, and felt witches lined the kitchen window during Halloween. Toy pilgrims magnanimously shared the view as autumn tilted towards winter, with the beanie baby turkey from the basement. The house, like the scarecrow Feathertop, yawned, stretched, and came to life in tandem with the rhythms of the seasons, as if a living extension of my mom's carefully planted and tended gardens outside. We male troglodytes accepted the house's magical transformations as natural. We rarely appreciated the love and hard work that must have gone into bringing an inanimate object to life. Growing up in this house was like a fairy tale, I answered. And though I had said fairy tale home in evasion, a shorthand to get away from dwelling on the topic at length, it was not untrue. The house's charm, my mom's success, and channeling the aesthetics my brother and I had often taken for granted in our childhood into a thriving business felt self-evident and inevitable somehow. What point is there, we dense Vater men ask, in validating that maternal sacrifice aloud? But though I do not often share them, I always unlocked fond childhood memories whenever I snapped open my travel bag in the guest bedroom upstairs. This will be our last family Christmas at the house together. Speaking honestly, saying farewell to the family home is a bittersweet cavity in my chest. The house has always been my way station whenever I needed a bivouac to decamp and regroup during junctures in my life. A place where the flowers outside, the old books and paintings along the walls, ghost memories of writing in my bedroom or reading by the fire, remind me of the small things that are good and true. One obvious reason my brother and I probably do not indulge in nostalgia is because our childhood was a place to which we could physically return. The old rooms of this house held our childhoods in place. However, time has been evicting us slowly. Slippage is showing between reality and memory. This Christmas, when the question of our sleeping arrangements arose, Jamie said that he and his wife would sleep on the twin beds in our old room. I could keep the guest bed. He had forgotten our old room had been converted into a study for Dad years ago. One of the surest signs of adulthood is when you realize that your childhood home is a room you can no longer enter. The door must be reconstructed with words. I'm reminded of the Andy Williams song, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, where he sings, "There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago."
I would like to make a toast to this house.
Yes.
To this grand dame that has served my family well, my friends, my cherished people for many, many years. So first of all, I want to toast this house, and I feel it giving us all a great big warm hug.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't you? And
We are.
But I also hear it
Yes.
saying it's time for a new life. It's
A
time
renewal.
for a renewal and
different-
new younger people to move in. Refresh.
That's it.
But yes. Secondly, I would like to say that never before have I been so appreciative of my good friends. So thank you to Dr. Archer, who helped nurse me in my distress, but mostly thank you to all of you who I have been honored to have as our Thanksgiving guests over these many years. And I am thinking of Mamu. I'm thinking of my boys who are not here.
Lord.
Mostly, I want to say that all of you will be welcome
Cheers to that.
next
Yay.
year.
Yay.
New chapter, who dis?
Chapter. Well, as I said earlier, I've been really nervous about telling you this. And I think I've been nervous because, like you maybe, you're questioning the wisdom of decisions you have made or are about to make. And even though I've been teasing for a while that Hubs and I have been looking around and that it was time for a move, nevertheless, When the rubber hits the road, you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night a lot, questioning if you are making the right decision, if you are going to regret it later, in other words, you have just really screwed up. Stuart, am I right?
Yeah, I understand.
So as I always do sometimes, I refer to the counsel of others. I talk to my best friends. I talk to my family members. I meditate. I pray. But in this case, I decided to do something else. And that was, I Googled it. And I Googled, am I making the right decision? And what came up, and I do not know the source of this response, but it was absolutely perfect. So Stuart, shall I share it?
This is cool. I didn't know you were doing this.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
this is pretty cool. And the response was, if where you are now in life does not enhance your priorities, or worse, compromise them, and you have taken the steps to remove yourself from your situation, then you know you've made the right decision. And so I think I had gotten to the point in my life, it was a wonderful quotation by Dee Hardy, who used to write in, I can't remember, it was Traditional Home or Better Homes and Gardens, one of those magazines, and she was about to move. And I remember her saying that your home should be the backdrop to your life, it shouldn't be your life. And I think I began to feel as if both the garden and this house had become my life, because my boys were gone and now I was spending more time getting my house in shape and cleaning my house and keeping up with an old house. And my garden is very high maintenance. And it just got to the point where, as much as I love it, I felt it really wasn't serving my priorities as well as it should. And I think I wanted maybe, I don't know that simpler life is the correct term, but I want a less complicated life so that I could live a bigger life. Does that make sense, Stuart?
I think it makes great sense. Yeah.
And here's my question of the day. Does that make sense to you? And are you going through any kinds of major transitions in your life right now where you are questioning your own decision-making skills, the wisdom of the decisions you have made? And are you nervous or are you excited? Because I think for me right now, as I live between two worlds, Stuart and I were even talking about, okay, which house are we referring to now?
It's a new problem.
It's a whole new paradigm. And so I feel like I'm living half in one world and half in another world. So I want to explain my rationale for the number of different reasons of why we are moving, because I think some of them might resonate with you and it might help you put some decisions that you are considering in some kind of perspective. Because if I have heard it once, I have heard it a million times, and that is, how could you ever leave that house and garden? And so in response to that, here are my top 10, 11, I don't know how many reasons there are, for why Hubs and I have decided to move. And I'm going to refer to my notes because I really wanted, it's been such a complex decision that I really wanted to make sure that I could communicate to you these different reasons so that by communicating them to you, it made me feel as if I was affirming my own decision. And sometimes you have to say things out loud to be able to understand them better. So I think first and foremost, the overarching reason is I just could tell it was time for many, many different reasons. But one, because in a not too distant past, I helped my parents, but I say not too distant past, within the past 10 to 15 years, I helped my parents move out of their humongous home in Martinsville, Indiana, and into assisted living. And it was a Herculean task for my family, for my brothers and sisters, to move a very large template into a smaller template. And that kind of kept gnawing at me because it is something that I didn't want my children to have to do, particularly because my boys don't live here. They live far away. My one son lives in Singapore. My other son lives in Denver. And so I just kept hearing these little whispers that it's time, it's time. And then you just need to strike while the iron is hot. And let me tell you, when I found my new house, it was sizzling. and I needed to be very opportunistic about it. So I think my overarching thematic was I could just tell it was time. It was time for me. It was time for this house to embrace a new, maybe younger clientele. And it ain't no secret that we're all getting older. And even though I hate the term downsizing, because we're really not downsizing that much, but I do think it was time to resize and reformulate how we live our lives. So number 2 was, you know, I am in my 60s. I feel like I'm in my 40s or 50s, and so I think sometimes I am delusional about certain things. And periodically, you need to have a reality check. And I think it was instructive for me to have that health scare this year where I had to have major surgery that just kind of came out of the blue. And that was a lesson learned. At any time, anything can happen absolutely out of the blue. And sometimes it's better to already have a simpler, less complicated life in place when those things happen. The other thing that I came to realize about this beloved house of mine, and you guys have seen most of it, is that this is a 1932 house. And even though we have made some changes to it, we redid the kitchen, we've redone some of the bathrooms, the closets, you guys have seen most of it, it nevertheless has pretty much its original footprint. And the original footprint back in the 1930s, pre-World War II, was that their priority, I think, architecturally was that there were lots of rooms. Not necessarily that the rooms were very large or were very liberal or very livable. Stuart, would you agree with that, having navigated?
Very, very sectioned off.
Very sectioned off. The other reality check for me was when I had my boys and they grew up in this house, they were children. They were smaller. So navigating all of these tight spaces wasn't that difficult because they were smaller. Now they are men, and Hubs and I, we too might be a little bit bigger. Stuart is a tall, big guy. And so increasingly I found that these tight spaces for us with our overscaled size furniture and things just became increasingly difficult to navigate, and we were constantly bumping into things, as Stuart and I have found, because we've started doing so much shooting, and we just kept realizing, boy, this space is tight and it's difficult to navigate. And part of that is the nature, the inherent footprint of this house and its age, but a lot of it is also how my furniture fits in this house. And so because of that, I just decided that I wanted to reinvent my spaces and by extension reinvent myself, because that will give me an opportunity to look at old things in new ways. Now my third reason. Now this is a reason that has become increasingly important to me as I have gotten older. You guys know I absolutely adore my English Tudor home with its mahogany woodwork. I would never consider painting it. I would never consider taking down my 100-year-old oak tree in the front to do one thing which is very important to me now, and that is get more light. I find that as I've gotten older, I really want a lot more light in my daily rounds. I want more sunlight. I want more natural light. And just by nature of the dark woodwork, that really was not that possible. Also, just some other peculiarities of this house made generating that kind of illumination kind of a problem. And that brings me to my tree also. Because it's a very shaded location, that tree is absolutely magnificent. But it's not as magnificent as it was when we first moved in. And I know that that tree has a lifespan. It may last another 100 years, or it may come down in an ice storm, as Stuart has experienced many ice storms here. It may come down in an ice storm next year. I don't think my heart can handle that. If some of you have experienced the most recent ice storm, remember that one, Stuart?
Well, long-term viewers experienced ours.
Oh my gosh, where I was standing there seeing some of the limbs breaking.
I'll put the video up.
Put the video up.
Historically, in the past, when the branches come down, a lot of them go out into the street rather than over the... And there you have it. There goes my big tree in the front. At least it didn't fall on the house.
That really took a toll on me. And the thought of being here when that tree lives out its life is just more than I can bear. And so I want to go before the tree goes. And also, as much as I love that tree, it is also impeding more light coming into my house. So since I have made more light an imperative, I also made that a priority when I was searching for my new home. And so I promise you, this new home has light in all sorts of abundance, which makes
Stuart happy.
It certainly makes Stuart happy, and it makes me cheerier on a sunny day. It just makes me sunnier. So I think that was another reason that I wanted to change. So let's go on to a fourth reason or fifth reason. The fifth reason is I have noticed that my tastes have changed some. It may not have evidenced itself on this channel because I know it definitely resonates as a maximalist garden and maximalist on the inside. And while I am certainly not a minimalist and I don't have any intention of becoming one, I want to find that happy medium in between the two. And I want a simpler, more elegant life, less cluttered life to live, where I'm not spending so much time maybe taking care of stuff inside and outside, but enhancing the beauty of what I do have, so that it in isolation, the things that I have in isolation are really beautiful and not being diminished by sometimes too much clutter that I have around. And so while I love that old English layered look, both inside and outside, this will give me an opportunity to pare down, get rid of a lot of things, but also give me the opportunity to go thrifting for new things, to go shopping for new things in some colors maybe I haven't used in the past. So again, that's kind of part of my thematic of reinventing myself and kind of coming up with new ways, again, to look at old things. So another thing that will enable me to live a bigger life is I want to entertain more, both on a, I don't want to say large scale, but on a more frequent scale, more small dinner parties, more indoor, outdoor entertaining, things of that nature. And to be able to do that, I need to simplify my life. And this house, as magnificent as it is, and Stuart, you have eaten more than your share of meals here, inside and out. Nevertheless, I want a template that is just easier to entertain in. And this house will be easier to entertain in, both inside and out. And so because of that, it was, again, one of the motivations that will help me live a bigger life and a less cramped life. And as many people can't kind of congregate in one area as they would like, because the places, albeit they are very intimate.
Oh, it's great. I mean, this house is great.
Yeah, but they're small. And the other thing is, everybody always wants to be right there in front of the fireplace or whatever. And we're not we're not huge TV viewing people here, but nevertheless, there have been times when it would have been nice to have a larger area where all of my family members could sit down and watch a holiday movie together or watch a football game together. And we really just, in the past, we've kind of rigged one, but we just haven't ever really had a natural place to do that. I think primarily because I've never wanted to have a TV in my living room. And this house, the new house, provides a solution to that dilemma. I have a great place where we can all gather and spend time together and still have a living room where I don't have a TV in my living room. Because to me, I just have never liked that, Stuart. You've probably noticed I don't have a TV.
I've noticed.
In my living room. My living room is probably the biggest room in the house. So that way it will also feed into that kind of entertainment thing, and also a place where I can spend more family time all together in the same room. Now that leads me to, and trust me, I'll really get into trouble here. I am not intimating that that I'm about to have grandchildren anytime soon. But would I like to have grandchildren in the future? Absolutely. And this home will be 10 times easier to have grandchildren in because it is just more navigable, Stuart. And there's one room in particular where as soon as I saw it, I could already see a cloth teepee being set up in the corner where the grandkids could play. And it will just be easier because I have changed a lot of diapers in this house and it wasn't always easy constantly going upstairs and downstairs. And if I'm going to be doing that with grandkids, I want to do it on one level. The other thing that I have found from a practical standpoint, as increasingly this business or whatever it is, this endeavor that Stuart and I have created, is that my office is upstairs. And so it's always been kind of difficult for me to have an office upstairs and have my garden downstairs, and I was never on the right floor. And while that may have been good to keep me in shape running up and down, it wasn't always practical. And it's not always convenient when you have lots of people coming and going like I'm doing. I'm always running from upstairs to downstairs to open the door. All of those things, you guys know. If you live in a two-story house, you know that there are both pros and cons. And right now I am just wanting, I'm looking more at the cons side of the ledger than the pros side of the ledger, and so I'll be happy to all be on one floor. But it's also one of the reasons I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning Googling, have I made the right decision? And I think, I like to think that's a sign of maturity, but it's also a heartfelt expression of just how much I love this house. Yeah. And how much I have invested in it and the garden, and despite what some people may think.
Well, like I said earlier, no one's more sad about this than you.
Nobody is more sad about this than me, but also nobody is happier and more excited than I am about the prospect of moving forward. So, and that leads me to when I found this house, it just, okay, well, here's a tease. Should I go ahead and tease this, Stuart?
Uh-oh. Well, okay,
I'm going to go ahead and say it. So kind of how I'm looking at this is, even though this home that we're moving into is not that much smaller, really.
It feels smaller, yeah, but it's,
I don't think
footage-wise.
Depending on where you are, it's just slightly smaller square footage-wise. But from the outside, it looks, this house
maybe it.
Yeah, this house has always looked, I think, very grand from the outside. The inside really was much more modest, I think, than the outside clued you into. This house is just the opposite. It is very, well, it looks much smaller on the outside than it is on the inside.
Yeah, and the inside just feels huge.
Yeah, the inside feels huge. So I think it is, what's the word I want? It kind of just tricks the eye a little bit. So how I'm thinking about it is that I am moving from the manor house into the cottage, from the English manor house into the English cottage. And I love that analogy because it reminds me of so many things. When Rosemary Very moved out of her huge home, Barnsley House, and she moved into another area, smaller dwelling on the estate, and her family moved into the bigger house. It reminds me a little bit of Helen Dillon in her English garden in Dublin, and she moved from there and she moved into another garden in Dublin because she wanted to start a new garden, as do I, another real motivation for me. And
everybody gets to start a new garden with you.
And everybody gets to start a new garden with me.
I hope that's exciting for everybody.
I hope that's really exciting
for me.
And as I try to let all of you know, if you are new to this channel, and if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you're old to this channel, please hit the like button and turn on notifications. But I think there is sometimes a perception that I kind of bristle at, that I did all of this with a lot of help and with really deep pockets, and I did not. I did 99% of it myself. I designed and planted 99% of this garden. I made a million mistakes. I did 99% of the interior decor here, for good or bad. I did not paint, and I did not resand floors. But I did create the ambiance that you find here. And I've done all of that myself, and I've done it over time. A lot of it from thrifted finds, a lot of it not with deep pockets, even though, like you probably, you know, everyone's income over time ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're more flush, sometimes you're not. But I grew up in a family of 10, and so and I'm a child of parents of the Depression, so I never tried to, it was always done with being cost conscious in mind. And so I kind of bristle at the fact that some people insinuate that I did this with deep pockets, and I didn't do it myself, because I did. And in fact, another reason that I am moving is I have often thought that to put closure on this house and garden, I needed to document it in some way. And happily this year I did that. And I wrote a book, much to my amazement and surprise. And I came out with a book about this house and the creation of this garden in May. It's called The Elegant and Edible Garden. And if you haven't bought a copy, please do so. We'll put a link. And so that was my homage to this house and garden, Stuart. So I feel like I have the legacy of this house documented, not only in a garden journal form, but also in an actual book form, where I share lots of the stories from this house. And that's a tease to the fact that next year, with Cool Springs Press, the same publisher of my book, I'm coming out with a 5-year garden journal that will be available sometime next year, all things Lord willing.
It's crazy how many things we could actually tease, because I thought you were talking about something else.
Yeah, I was talking. Yeah, there's other things as well. So at any rate, that's another reason. And then I'll sum this up with 2 more reasons. And so let's pull out the lens, Stuart. Let's widen the lens. It's not just about this house, but it's also about this street and my neighborhood. So much about this street that I have loved is that some of my best friends have lived on this street. You know, I have been on the same street, and I have aged right along, and my children have aged right along with children in the neighborhood who are now grown and who are adults, and their parents. And recently, there's been a lot of mobility on this street. So 2 of our dearest friends live to the west of us, and they moved a couple of years ago. Recently, a couple that lives across the street, whom have been dear friends for many, many years, he moved into memory care, and probably she will make some lifestyle changes here before too long. Let's just put it this way. There's been a lot of in and out on this street, And so there's a lot more new people on this street, which is great, but I don't have a history with them.
Yeah, it's a different place than
Yeah,
it was.
I don't have a history with them as much, though with Sydney and Tommy down the street, we have become good friends. But nevertheless, the nature of my street has changed, and not just my street, but the neighborhood in general. And there's more people, young people moving in constantly, but there's a lot of in and outing. And so things that were really a touchstone for me, those homes have now changed. And so for me, as important as that is to me, it was also another signal that I needed to move on. And the neighborhood that we are moving to, Stuart, is also an old neighborhood, actually an older neighborhood than Crown Heights. It is in a neighborhood called Mesta Park, and it's pretty fabulous. The other thing I talked about, striking while the iron was hot, not only did this new house punch all of, checked all of the marks, all of boxes on my wish list, but also it is just within spitting distance of one of my dear, if not my best friend, who introduced Hubs and I, whom I have known forever. She lives just a matter of blocks away. And this was another reason, her 2 children, if I am at the middle of this street, she has a son on one end of the street and a daughter on the other end of the street, both of whom I adore and whom I have done videos with in the past in some landscape makeovers. So that's another reason. It just seemed like there was just too many signs that fate was just really knocking on my door, and I needed to answer.
And you've been thinking about this.
And I've been thinking about it for a while.
So it's not like you made this decision overnight or anything.
Yeah, no, it's not like I made this decision overnight. And also, I have teased many, many times that I am ready to start a new and not too much of a different kind of garden, but a different garden nevertheless. And this gives me a blank slate to do that. The other thing is I am hoping that I'll be able to have, you guys know this about me, a tiny little greenhouse. Not immediately, because other stuff needs to be done first, but maybe a tiny little greenhouse there. So Stuart, I think we're going to wrap that up. But there is...
The most exciting part is to come.
The most exciting part is to come. But the other thing is, and most importantly to me probably, is no decisions like this are made in isolation. And I think if it weren't for the fact that my family wasn't so supportive, then I would have a hard time moving. But they, even though they love this house and they grew up here, they kind of are excited for us, and they realize it's time for us to move. And it's not like they're going to want to buy this house in the future because they both live far away. And so it was wonderful because my son in Singapore was able to come home and spend the holidays, and we all got to have one last Christmas here. Everybody got to say their goodbyes to this house because, yes, we have already sold this house. It never went on the market. We've already sold this house, and we hope to be out of here by mid-January. Well, come on up, everybody, and happy New Year. Welcome 2023, and welcome to my new home. Now, Stuart and I apologize. We probably really pulled on your heartstrings a little bit there, and I have to say it reflects how my mood has been. Kind of weepy, but also equally as excited and happy. And we're at the happy part now and the exciting part now. So I look at it this way. My son Johnny framed it very correctly. He said, "Mom, you are moving from the fairy tale house to the storybook cottage." And I could not have put it better. And I don't know at what point in living in that house it started to be called the fairy tale house. I don't know how it got that moniker, but it was very interesting to me that in the description of this, the real estate description of this house, it called it an English storybook cottage.
And what a good reading by Johnny. that we all just heard. you know.
Yes, and he calls it he had called it the fairy tale house, and it had been called
it's
that
wonderful.
in many different places from many different sources who gave it that name.
All right, so don't take away from the ta-da moment.
Okay, so ta-da! And by the way, I'm going to say one more thing. I always have to have one more thing before I do the big reveal. This house is very deceptive. Actually, both of my houses, English and character, have been very deceptive. My manor house, or the fairy tale house, was, I think it looked deceptively large from the outside, but inside it was only about 2,800 square feet. This cottage looks deceptively small, but when you get inside, you'll realize that it is not that much smaller in square footage than the home I've been living in. This one is just under 2,500 square feet.
Even
which
I'm
is,
getting anxious to get in there.
You're okay.
And I've already
Sis
seen
Linda,
it.
shut up already. Come on in. So here we go, you guys. Now, Stuart has
I hope I
lots.
spoke for everybody.
You
there.
did, and I shouldn't have said shut up. Stuart, growing up, I would have gotten in trouble for saying shut up. So, okay, so you guys, this is the main portion of the house. Now, this home was completely refurbished. It was taken down to the stud, which was one of the things on my list. If I could find a house that didn't need to be refurbished out or inside, just outside, then that was good for me. And what I love about this home is that it maintains its 1930 historical and architectural integrity for the most part. It was built in 1930, which is 2 years older than the house I have been living in. And you will notice that I already have a topiary in the window in front of these diamond faceted windows, which I absolutely adore. And the first thing I moved in, and believe me, we are doing this in stages. We are far from moved in and far from settled, because you guys know I'm bringing you along for the ride. This is all about us. I'm going to share with you some of the different considerations, some of the different decisions, some of the ways I've changed my mind about this entire project. But that said, the very first thing that moved into this house was a topiary. And I have many more topiaries to move inside and
Just
out.
Look at that shot with the windows.
Yeah, isn't it just beautiful? Now, this neighborhood is called Mesta Park. It's actually a little bit older than my neighborhood of Crown Heights. It is even closer to downtown. It is in an area that we call Midtown that is just thriving and bustling. There are even more places that I can walk to. I've got bookstores I can walk to, bars, pubs, restaurants,
Everything.
a Goodwill
right here.
donation center. Just about everything I could want, in addition to many friends, are in this neighborhood.
Here, hold on 1 second. Look at this. Look at that light. That's good. It's just good light.
It's just
There's
good light. Oh,
everywhere
are you
in
still?
here.
Are we
I'm
still?
referencing the
Are we
lighting.
still talking to the universe? Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. So, and again, this references the fact that, oh my gosh, the light in here is absolutely incredible. It is just incredible. One of my motivations for moving, as I told you. Now, another motivation for my moving is that my BFF, my friend, lives just two blocks from here. I live on 18th Street. She lives on 16th Street. And two of her children live on 18th Street within spitting distance. And her son up this way has two children whom I can borrow as grandchildren until I get some of my own. And her daughter, who is also a good friend of mine, lives on the other end of 18th Street. So you can see that we're in the process of making all sorts of decisions here. I'll be rearranging furniture. There'll be lots of changes. And Stuart can show you, probably in our next episode, I'm going to show you some pictures of what it looks like when it was completely empty. Don't you think, Stuart?
There might be a few of those in here, but yeah.
Okay.
They'll be
so
sprinkled through our videos for a while.
for a while. So I adore the kitchen. I love the fact I haven't necessarily been one to be attracted to open spaces in the past, open living areas, but I love the way this was done. It was so tastefully done, and it is very, very livable. There is, what do we call this, Stuart? What's this area called?
I always call them breakfast nooks.
A breakfast, yeah, there's a breakfast nook right here. We still have a table to get, but I love the fact that I have much more counter space, much more workable space in the kitchen. I'll be doing more baking, more cooking. Stuart and I will be showing you a lot of different things that we'll be whipping up in the future, because I now have so much more surface area upon which to play. And I really love it. I'm gonna have to be mindful that I have white cabinetry, which is, it's kind of funny, Stuart, because right now, probably all the times I had painted cabinetry, I had my green cabinets, it was popular to have white cabinets. Now that now that painted cabinetry is in, I feel, I guess I'm non-traditional. I want to go against the grain. I'm going to have white cabinetry. And I'm going to be mindful of that it will be more of a challenge to keep clean, but there is no better time than to make resolutions to keep your cabinetry clean than when you're moving into a new house on New Year's Day. Do you agree, Stuart?
I completely agree.
Yeah, so I love everything about it. There are a number of different things that are going to have to be modified to make it more practical. And I'll be pointing out some of those things in the future. Another one of the very first things I moved in was an amaryllis to give a little pop of color, but you can see this one, I need to clip off this stalk and start another one.
The
so
garden to come.
The garden to come. Now, speaking of the garden, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that today, I already have a plan, a landscape plan for the front. I've been working with my friends Roger and John and Kayla, coming up with a plan that we will be executing over time. I'm bringing you guys right along with me. And please feel free to comment. Thumbs up or thumbs down on what you think about my moving. You cannot hurt my feelings. And what you think about the house, you know, as a blank slate right now, because we've got a lot to do. Interestingly, I love the tile in here. And I'll be talking more about specific features as we do a deep dive. But I love this kitchen tile in here. And interestingly, I just saw on Instagram, day before yesterday, one of my very, very favorite accounts, Jill Sharp, has this same tile in one of her homes. So great minds think alike, even though I didn't pick out this tile, but I do love it. So I like the fact that I will be able to have a TV in the kitchen, and you can see here that this has been set up so I can have a TV in here. Right now it's housing my purse and chargers, and I do love that. It may look as if I have a lot less storage, but actually overall I think I'm going to have as much, if not more. There's storage under here, and I have some bar stools coming. There's just a lot of different sources, and most sources for storage, and most of them are larger than what currently exists right now. We're playing with different things. Yes, my husband will have to have a dad chair in here so he can keep me company while I cook, and I can keep him company while I'm cooking. Now this is the one we have here right now. I don't think it's going to stay, but I just wanted to kind of get a sense of scale there. So should we move on to another room? I don't want to take too much time. So this is the original template of the house modified. So what I love about this house is there's not a lot of wasted space on passage areas. There's not a lot of wasted space in hallways, but you can see here that I'll have room for a couple of cabinets, a couple of bureaus, and I will show you full bath number 1 of 3 full baths here. Now again, this was taken down to the studs, and all of this stuff, all of the appliances, all of the fixtures, everything is brand new. So I love this. I'm trying to get out of the
I
way.
know, this is the only room
And
it's
you
hard to
can,
shoot
and I
in.
love the appointments, which is a mixture of both chrome and burnished brass. So I'm going to get out of here, Stuart.
I actually
so
have a shot of that I can put
you
there.
have a shot of it you can put there.
I think so.
Yeah, and be careful. Okay,
break
this is one of the wonderful closets that for me will probably, I'm going to think of it as an entertaining closet. And this is where I will keep lots of my things for entertaining, some of my crystals, some of my candlesticks, a lot of my linens.
Boy, everybody needs an entertaining closet.
And my mom used to have one that was strictly devoted to nothing but candles.
Oh.
So as I said, one of my objectives was in this house, I want to entertain more, and the open plan and an entertaining closet will make that easier. So in here is my office. I love the fact that I have great light in here. I have great views. Obviously, I need to put up some window treatments for privacy. There is in here a marvelous, and this is one of 3 bedrooms, by the way, one of which I'm using as an office. This has a cedar closet in it.
Very surprisingly cool. Unexpected.
Pretty wonderful, isn't it? But now this is what I really want to show you. Now, Stuart, I don't know that a bathroom can ever sell a house, but let's just say that it was pretty influential in my decision. So this is the master bedroom, and this is a pretty magnificent bathroom, if I do say so
kind of an
myself. As someone who has always had a postage stamp of a bathroom, I think this is pretty incredible. This used to be a porch.
So
Stuart's
ridiculous.
laughing. I know, it is ridiculous. This used to be a porch, and they converted it to a bathroom that has an absolutely fabulous, it's a spa. It's a spa bathroom, and I've never had one of those before. And I really like the fact that not only is it spacious, it has a divine bathtub and shower, but look at all of this storage in here, Stuart. Look at this.
Getting over to you slowly.
Okay, getting to me slowly. I'm moving too fast.
No,
now look at this.
there's a lot to see in here.
I will have so
I don't think I realized
much,
this was here.
yes, so
Oh,
much
man.
linen storage in here. I might even be able to put some of my table linens in here. And I love the fact that it's even got an outlet. So a lot of those things where you have cords that are just
Oh, that's
always
perfect.
outside, it's perfect. I can have that here, and there's
Yeah.
also an outlet right there.
Any more below?
Yes, so I love it. Now this does face the front of the house, and obviously privacy is an option, so no consideration was left untended. And I've got a remote control to my shade.
Boom. So cool.
Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
It's a dream
If I
bathroom,
do
it
say
really
so
is.
myself. But what I love is the fact that they kept the same architectural features. They
Yeah.
still have the casement windows. There's still the eyebrow window above it. I have great views during the day, but at night I definitely still have my privacy. And I have to show you, this is one of my Christmas gifts from my kids in Singapore. They brought this back from Singapore to me. Isn't that beautiful?
That is beautiful.
Okay, so shall we continue, Stuart?
We shall.
Now,
One more slow spin.
this, I think my
Oh,
daughter.
this is the, yeah.
We need to put
Cue
the clip of my daughter-in-law Taylor here.
Really
I put a
cool.
bench in the
Kind
shower.
of cool.
It is.
Yeah, you know what? I put one of those Swedish sauna wood benches.
Yeah, in the shower.
Yeah. I cannot believe it.
The brass appointments.
It's huge.
You guys ready to move in?
Yeah.
Watch this, do the window shade. Seriously.
Okay.
Okay, look here.
Oh, this is the big one.
Oh my.
Yeah. Okay, now they've seen it.
Okay. Now you've seen it. Now you want to see what she was exclaiming about. Okay, let's turn off the light. Turn on the light.
Now this is, they're going to get to see my hand. Either way I
welcome
do this.
to my closet.
Okay, here's one way.
Here's one way.
That's a mirror there. I don't
It's
want
a-
to show
yeah,
you the
it's
other
a-
side
it's a
yet because I
mirror.
don't want to reveal that it's like 20,000 yards this way.
Yeah, and what a brilliant use of space. What a brilliant use of space.
It's pretty cool.
There's just all sorts of drawers in here, hanging space, places. Well, there is just a ton of space. And when we were looking at the house, they had it staged so beautifully. There was even a big piece of artwork here. And it was staged beautifully and careful. Yeah, careful.
I thought I was
careful walking
closer.
backwards. But I love it, and I anticipate we'll be shooting lots of fashion segments in here.
Well, there's plenty of
lots
room.
of
It's
outfit of
basically
the day reveals. I just love it. I do not have an accessory closet here, but I have something probably equally as good, if not better. And yeah, it's if you are out there and you're jealous, then I don't blame you, because I would be jealous too. And so it's things like that that are kind of fun. And so approaching it from this way, again, it's about easier living. It's about, like, for the past 32 years, in the morning, we would get up, we would have to go downstairs, make our coffee, we'd be on different floors, light a fire in the fireplace, but nothing was close, nothing was easy living, and all spaces were tight and were difficult for people to even pass by each other. This is not that way. It has lots of breathing room that I am going to try to definitely maintain, conserve that spaciousness, what attracted to me in the first place. But it's just
the back.
it's just pretty fun. Okay,
Oh, this is the cool thing.
Okay, now this
too,
is
yeah.
there's just all sorts of things here. I'm still having to learn how all of my new
That
appliances.
may be normal to some people, but
Appliances work. Yes.
a microwave drawer, not to me
Microwave drawer,
yet.
but when you have lived in a 1932 house, there are certain things that are just really incredible. Okay, now I talked about storage.
Let me back up so they can see the.
Okay.
Don't open it yet, so they can see all the drawers.
Okay.
Or AKA drawers. Not drawers.
Looky here.
All right, now I'll come show them inside.
Lots and lots of space. Now, I had wood mode cabinetry in my other home, and I had a pantry where shelves swung out like that, but it was a little bit difficult to access, and this is going to be so much better, not only for food, but also for all of my appliances and things, a lot of which I have sitting out now that I don't want to sit out anymore. This is the only area where I can anticipate in the future that there will be problems when I'm in here and Hubs wants to get past me,
yeah,
and
we're
that may
showing.
be kind of
If somebody's hungry, why
a
somebody's got to get
difficulty.
by.
Yeah, somebody's got to get by. But I also like the fact that his dad chair is not in the kitchen now. His main dad chair will be in another area of the house. So we won't be tempted to just graze all of the time with calories we don't need.
I say we go right to the big room because it's a cool turn.
You think we should go?
We can show them
okay,
this area
no, let's
first.
show them this area first.
okay.
So this is just my laundry room, and it does have a basement, and this goes down to the basement. But I have a small laundry room in here, and I'll be perhaps asking lots of questions of the day about how you would create storage and utilitarian space in here. I have a chest right here right now that probably will not stay, but it is there just for the moment.
Closet and everything's gonna be. So this.
Oh my gosh! Wow!
And lots of storage space down in the basement, which is just wonderful. Now this is the second of 3 bedrooms. This is the guest bedroom.
With a
and
bath.
with a wonderful bath, which I don't know if we can see real well, Stuart. You can see. And then this one also has a combined bath and shower. So people, my kids, when they come home, my guests, they are going to just be so much more comfortable in here. And there is another closet in here that is far bigger than it's equivalent closet space in the guest room of our house on 40th Street. Now this room is still mayhem, but nevertheless, this is the room that when I was researching it and how I wanted to decorate it, that continually, this was kind of a Bunny Williams thing. It kept being called the Great Room. So this is the Great Room, and it has one of my requirements that was on my list, and that is a wood-burning fireplace. So this not only has a wood-burning fireplace, but look how large this room is. And for the first time, my family is going to have an area where we can all convene in the same place. There'll be a TV over the mantle, and I've got a placeholder Shapiro there right now, but there will be a TV in here, and we'll have a bar set up in here. My husband's dad chair will be right here because he has to be by the fire, and he has to be able to see outside, see the birds, and we can just swivel it if he wants to watch TV. This is where most of our beloved library will be. It's got great light in here, so it's just
amazing.
It's an amazing room. And we just love the fact that we can all congregate together. And the other thing is it'll give me a secondary dining table in here, because this is where the big groaning board table that used to be out in the studio was, and we've moved it in here. And so we'll be able to also access this. Just by shifting the furniture a little bit, we'll have a secondary seating area. And I'm not even going to show you much of the back or anything like that. We'll reserve that for another day. There's going to be maybe a few modifications that we want to make over time. This has a huge picture window in it that ultimately we might want to transform into probably some casement windows or something like that, maybe even French doors, most likely casement windows, so that it has more of the vintagey feel and less of a new home 1950s house feel, and that will be a good thing. But that's down the line. What we loved about this house was, man, it's move-in ready. So we still have rugs to put down. We're having some rugs that we already had recut and resized to fit the dimensions of these different rooms. We are getting rid of some of our furniture, and we are getting some new furniture, and that is all, we're all in the process of determining that right now. But you can see that even though it's not divided up into a lot of rooms, again, the house that we were in before was 2,800, just over 2,800 square feet, and this is just under 2,500 square feet. And I would say a good bit of the house that we had before really wasn't even used very frequently. So this one is much more navigable. It has so much more light. It will.
Let's be honest. You bought the house so I could have more light. You know,
yeah, I bought it just for Stuart so he could have. But look at it. Look at this beautiful axis.
Wow.
And I don't even have anything moved in yet. So this is all about. I haven't moved in 32 years, and there is so much I have to learn about decorating a new home that has a different vibe, about the process of moving, about the process of getting settled in. I'm going to rely heavily on you guys for tips.
I have a question of the day.
Okay.
How excited is everybody? I want to hear how excited.
How excited are you guys? Do you think this is going to be fun for us to work on this project together? I think some of you thought I was going to announce that I had grandkids. Some of you thought I was going to announce another book. Well, I think I've already announced that I've got a garden journal coming out. Some of you thought I was going to announce that I'm going to have a TV show. Actually, that is something that over the past 10 years, those are paths that I have started to follow a little bit and decided against it.
Who knows where we'll be?
Yeah, so who knows? It's just, You know,
We'll
who
see.
knows where the road will lead? All I
see.
know,
Love that.
all I know is that you are going to be walking right along with me. So happy New Year
Happy
to
New Year.
all of you. Thank you for walking this path of heartache and excitement with me, and I will see you in the new year.